You are listening to Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows. I am Owen Carver. In the summer of 1972, the heat in Galveston, Texas was relentless. The kind of heat that made the air feel heavy, the pavement soft beneath your feet. It was the kind of summer where people stayed out late, the beach bars packed with tourists looking for a good time. But beneath the neon lights and the sound of waves crashing against the shore, something far more sinister was lurking. Over the course of 4 weeks, 3 fishermen were found floating in the bay, their bodies carved up with a precision that suggested something more than just a random act of violence. At first, police thought it might be a boating accident or some kind of animal attack. But when the 4th body washed up on shore, there was no denying it. Galveston had a killer who knew how to cut. This is the story of the Butcher of Galveston Bay. Galveston in the 70s was a city caught between its past and its future. Once a bustling port town, a hub for gambling and organized crime, it was now something different. Tourism had taken over, with families and college kids filling the beaches, drawn by the cheap motels and all-night bars. But there was still an underbelly, a part of Galveston that never really changed. The first body was found on July 3, 1972. A fisherman named Manuel Rojas. He was pulled from the water just after sunrise, his small boat drifting near Pelican Island. His torso had been sliced open, his insides missing. But what really disturbed investigators was the precision of the cuts. Whoever had done this knew exactly what they were doing. This was not some amateur with a knife. This was someone who had done this before. At first, police thought maybe it was a robbery gone wrong, that Manuel had been attacked by another fisherman over a dispute. But when the second body was found 5 days later, that theory fell apart. This time, it was James Callahan, another fisherman. Same wounds, same precision. The FBI was called in, but there were no leads, no witnesses, no evidence, just bodies. The third victim, Thomas Nielsen, was found on July 22nd, his body caught in the nets of a shrimping boat. By now, the town was in a panic. People stopped going out at night. Fishermen started carrying guns. And then came the 4th body, July 28th. This one was different. It was not a fisherman, it was a doctor. Dr. Richard Hensley, a well-respected surgeon at John Seeley Hospital, found floating just off the seawall. His hands were missing, cut off at the wrists. His torso had been opened the same way as the others. That was when investigators realized something terrifying. The killer was not just some random maniac. He was a professional. A fisherman would not have cut with that kind of precision. Neither would a random drifter. This was surgical. And suddenly, Dr. Hensley's murder made sense. Was he the killer, or did he know something? Investigators started digging into Hensley's background, and that was when the pieces started falling into place. Hensley had been a Navy surgeon during the Korean War. He had worked in field hospitals, performing amputations, emergency surgeries, things most doctors would never have to face. After the war, he had moved to Galveston, working as a trauma surgeon. But here was the strange part. In his free time, he was known to frequent the docks. He would go out on fishing boats, not to fish, but to observe. He told people it was about learning anatomy in a different way. He liked watching the way the fishermen cleaned their catch, the way they gutted and filleted with precise movements. Some people thought it was odd, others brushed it off as a quirk. But now, it felt like something else. Investigators started looking through his medical records, searching for anything that might connect him to the victims, and that was when they found it. James Callahan, the second victim, had been a patient of Hensley's just 6 months prior. He had come in with a deep laceration on his leg, a wound from a fishing accident. The other 2 fishermen? They had also been treated by Hensley at some point in the past. It was too much to ignore. But before police could bring him in for questioning, he was dead. Which left one question. If Hensley was the killer, who had killed him? There was one last clue. A note left in the pocket of his jacket. It was a prescription pad, the handwriting clear, precise. 4 words. You took too much. Whoever wrote it was never found. Some believed it was a revenge killing, a family member of one of the victims. Others thought there was more to the story, that maybe Hensley had been part of something bigger, something he could not control. The case went cold. No more bodies, no more clues. Just a series of gruesome murders that left a scar on Galveston Bay. Some say the killer was never caught, that whoever left that note was still out there, waiting. Others believe Hensley was not the butcher at all, That he was just another victim? That the real killer? He is still out there, somewhere, watching, waiting. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. If you want to support the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, the algorithm knows.